My mom used to call me Special K.
Ooh.
Funny. The Spurs win at 119-107. That's their season-high 5th win in a row. But they've also gone 13-3 in their last 16 games. Coach, that win moves them up to 5th place, past the Houston Rockets. What is it that stands out about the way this team is playing right now and hitting their stride halfway through this season?
I like their ball movement on the offensive end, and they've incorporated 2 ISO players in Aldridge, who plays mostly on the box or the elbows, and DeRozan, who doesn't shoot threes, coming off of actions and then getting into his one-on-one game. But they've incorporated those 2 guys in how they play alongside of some good three-point shooters now. And they've changed their lineup a couple times. Pop's twisted some stuff around. Defensively, they seem a little bit more aggressive to me than they have been. You know, I mean, they're getting up a little bit more. They're more confident in their schemes. So they're pushing up. Their help is there. And they play very, very good team defense. So if you beat one guy in the Spurs, the other guy's rotating over. You very seldom beat a guy on the Spurs and have a clean layup. They come over, they rotate, they shift, they scramble very well. But it's their ball movement. I like the fact that we talked about it earlier. They're shooting 5 percentage points higher as a team in this run, 13-3. You know, you're taking about 100 shots a game. You're making 5 more shots a game.
Yeah,
that's huge, exactly. And you're talking about some of those being threes too, because they stopped having a lot of the poorer shooters shooting a lot of threes. Their top guys are knocking down threes, but I like their body and ball movement and just how they're playing. They're hitting stride. They had a whole new team this year, a whole new look. It took a little while to find it, but again, I've said this a million different times. It's Pops is the gold standard in this league for coaching, and he'll find a way. You give him enough time, and he's around that team enough. He'll figure out.
Well, speaking of the Houston Rockets, which is the team that the Spurs just left over in the Western Conference, and the Denver Nuggets, the team sitting atop the Western Conference, the Rockets hold the 10-point lead at halftime, 70-60. James Harden, unsurprisingly, is leading the way with 18 points. He's got 7 assists as well. Let's bring in, again, the czar of the telestrator, to break down, though, what Nikola Jokic has done thus far. Not just what he's done thus far, because he does have 15 points in this one. He also has 7 turnovers. What, though, stands out about his game and what makes him so effective when he is effective?
Let's take a look at the versatility that this young man has. He's very skilled, and they use him all over the court, not just send him down low because of his height. They take advantage of the things that he can do. First, let's look at him as a passer, as a distributor. They'll start him in the low post area, knowing that he can score down there. But he looks over his shoulder, reads the defense. It's a one-on-one with Capella until Tucker comes. As soon as Tucker comes, he drops it off to Millsap for the little short shot on the inside. Let's take a look at him in that post area, get him the ball, and the aggressiveness that he has. Look everything over, start to make you move. Yeah, it's a miss, but he goes right back after it, comes up with the offensive rebound, and then scores. Then on the outside, dribble handoff. I'm going to go down and post up the smaller Tucker. Tucker beats him up a little bit in that post area, so, okay, I don't want to get in a fight. I'll just step out behind the three-point line and watch this one from well behind the three-point line as he knocks down the 3. So a number of different facets to his game, a very skilled young big man, a guy who I believe I heard you people say could be in the MVP discussions at the end of the season.
Well, in our discussion anyway.
Yeah.
If we're talking about it, then he's in the conversation, right?
If they end up with the best record in the West, they'll have to talk about Jokic as an MVP candidate. Mike, how is he? He has 7 turnovers. What's Houston doing to cause him to turn the ball over? He's usually pretty steady with the ball. He gets a little loose once in a while, but he's usually pretty steady.
What we see them doing is they're waiting, and he puts it on the floor. 1 dribble, 2 dribbles, and then they come after him from the blind side, hoping that he'll either spin back into that oncoming defender, or the defender has gotten a hand in there 2 or 3 times, which has caused him to fumble it, lose control of the basketball. So they're trying to frustrate him after he puts it on the floor. When he catches and looks around, they stay at home. But once he starts to put it down, he's taking the contact from the body of Capella. And then, as you know, Tucker's very physical. When he comes after him or one of the other Houston defenders, they've caused him a little bit of concern.
Mike, that's one of those guys when you work with the big guys. That's if you inside reverse pivot, the old Jack Sigma move, so you keep your face to the guy and you never get your back to the basket where they can come up from behind you. So as you rip and face up, everything's in front of you. You can see it. He's such a young player. He needs to incorporate that, because that's one of the things. When you start dribbling the ball and they start coming from the blind side and everybody's digging, you get some turnovers. But he'll make an adjustment. He's very smart and he's got great hands. I like that big fella.
It always puts tremendous pressure on the defender when the offensive man turns and faces up, because now he becomes that triple threat.
All right, thanks, Coach Fratello. We'll check back in with you. The Dallas Mavericks have won 2 in a row at home, taking on a Lakers team still without LeBron James in the lineup. They're trying to snap a 3-game losing streak as they head to Dallas. This game is at 8:30 Eastern on NBA League Pass. So for more on this matchup, we're going to welcome in Mavericks radio play-by-play announcer Chuck Cooperstein. Thank you so much for joining us. First, let's discuss this not-so-close Rookie of the Year race. What has impressed you the most about Luka's play this season?
Well, I mean, obviously, the poise of a 19-year-old, you don't see this very often. But I think, more importantly, it is his strength. He's stronger than I think he looks, so that he can get pretty much anywhere that he wants to go to on the floor. And the other thing is, and Kevin probably knows this as well, having played with Larry Bird all those years, it's like the harder the shot, the more he wants to take that shot. And the more likely he seemingly is that he will make that shot. Like the one that he made the other night at halftime at Boston. The one he made at Portland to put the game in overtime. It just seems like the crazier the shot, the more he enjoys it, and the more likely it seems like he's going to knock it down.
Well, we've talked a lot tonight about the parity in the Western Conference through these first 40 games. The Mavericks sit outside the playoff picture in 13th, but with that parity, a playoff push is possible. What do you see as a realistic expectation for this team?
I think right now you're looking at playing important games in March. That would be a massive step forward for this team, given that the last 2 years they began the year 2-14 and 2-13. Playing important games, getting those young guys, especially Luka and Dennis Smith, the experience that they're obviously going to need to play in even bigger games down the road is the most important. If they want to be serious playoff contenders, they're going to have to try to find a way to win on the road. They have the worst road record in the league right now, obviously tied for the fewest home losses in the league. So these 2 games that they have tonight against the Lakers and on Wednesday against Phoenix are games that they absolutely have to have while they try to sort out whatever it is that's keeping them from winning on the road.
So I've been told I only have one more question with you. So I could obviously ask about that road record. I could obviously ask about keys to beating the Lakers. But I just want to know a favorite Dirk moment, favorite Dirk story as we're all weeping watching him hang him up this season.
Well, my favorite Dirk story is from my first year with the team at the end of the 2006 season. We had played in Los Angeles, won a game. Dirk hit a shot to win the game on a night where nobody was making anything, but he made one with a half second to go to win. We travel up to San Francisco and get to the hotel, and the equipment truck comes, and all of us iguana types always help unload the equipment truck. You don't normally see players unload the equipment truck. But there was Dirk slinging bags at 2 o'clock in the morning after hitting a game-winning shot, and it just reinforced what I had known prior to joining the team, and obviously what has taken place in the 14 years since I've been with the team. He's the most regular superstar that I think this game has ever seen, and he is going to be terribly, terribly missed.
That probably the highest compliment, the most regular. Right? You guys can follow Chuck Cooperstein at Coop Mavs. Thank you again for joining us before the game, Chuck.
Thanks for having me, Kristen. Take care.
All right, guys. We're obviously talking about a last season for Dirk Nowitzki, but a first season for Luka Doncic. Do you agree with Chuck that this is a team that could potentially be playing important games in March, that could be in that playoff conversation?
I'd like to say yes, but I'm not quite sure that they're ready to challenge the 3 or 4 teams that are ahead of them right now over the stretch of the remaining part of the season. But they've taken great strides from where they were, and the pieces that they've added either through free agency or acquiring Doncic in the draft the way they did. This is an on-the-rise Dallas team. And you know they have an owner who loves to win, so he's going to do whatever it takes to try and make this team better. They have an outstanding coach in Rick Carlisle. They're going to beat some teams and cause those other teams problems from getting into the playoffs. Some big losses for teams that go up against Dallas.
All right.
You know, I think the biggest thing is if they're playing meaningful games, if you have 15 games left and Rick comes in and says, fellas, looking at the schedule, we got to win 10 of our next 15 games. We got to go 10-5 over this stretch. And they're meaningful games because in the playoffs, you play meaningful games. I've seen so many young players just take games for granted. You know what I mean? They kind of come out and it's a win tonight, we lose tonight, whatever. You need to play in meaningful games for these young guys. I'd love to see Doncic playing these meaningful games along with Smith. You know, DeAndre Jordan was a great pickup for them. You know, Barnes has played so well for them. They're creating a nice little nucleus of guys. You know, Dirk, unfortunately, is too old to stay in that. He's if Dirk makes one or two one-legged step back bank shots a game, everybody would be happy on his you know, hey, we love you, but you're going away tour. But I would love to see these young guys play in games. And you know what? J.J. Barea has played so well for them off the bench. They need him healthy. He's had, you know, he sprained his ankle, and he needs to stay healthy for this team. But I'd love to see this team in the mix and see how Doncic just embraces all these tight games. He loves the moment.
Yeah.
Well, let's think about this. I'll throw these 5 names at you. These are teams they have to get ahead of. Okay, Memphis, Sacramento, Lakers,
yes,
Minnesota,
Lakers,
Utah.
Utah's got a great schedule. No, I hear you. It's going to be tough. But if they're in that mix, though, Mike, you know how it is. If you're coaching those young guys and you're one game out and there's 3 games to play and it means something, it's fun for them. And I think that's what you got to be. I've often said, Red Auerbach used to always say, hey, you're going to be down in a series at some point. We're going to be down 3-1, 3-2. You either win or go home. He said, you better learn how to win games on demand. Go out there and win games when you have to win that game. And he liked it. And I think that's a huge part of our league. You've got to figure out how you can win games. It's how you prepare, how you go in that game, your mindset of, man, we are going to win this game tonight. I'm going to be a big part of this win. And there's something about that. It gives you confidence. And I think young players need that if they ever want to try to win a championship or be at that level.
That right there, Coach, the flawless transition, as you mentioned, being down 3-1, it helps to have a guy like LeBron James on your team, that's for sure. Look at the Lakers with and without LeBron. Very few, I'm sure, surprised by their struggles without him, having won just 1 game in their last 6 tries without him on the court. Now, their point total is down, as are their field goal and 3-point percentages. Let's listen to Lakers coach Luke Walton earlier.
You know, they're trying, but they're young. But, you know, at some point, we need more passion, we need more fight, and that's not scoring, but it's more diving for loose balls, yet communicating loudly.
Without LeBron, this, of course, could be an opportunity for the Dallas Mavericks to continue to move up the ranks in the Western Conference. But do you guys see the Lakers as a buyer prior to the trade deadline?
I think the Lakers are wide open to see what's out there. Look to add another piece right now. Everybody keeps talking about at the end of this season,
right,
what are the Lakers going to do? But I think right now, with LeBron on the team and his mentality, he doesn't want to finish out of the playoffs. He wants to show that he could take a Laker team and get him into the playoffs. Do I need to say, look at the record in Cleveland right now since LeBron has left? He comes here. They're up in 4th place before he gets the injury. And now all of a sudden with him back out, they're sliding back down the ladder again. So with his competitive spirit, he would like to be able to say, I took the Lakers to the playoffs this year.
Right, well, because see, that's the problem, is we talk about next season and the season after because LeBron James is now in town, forgetting how good he makes everyone around him, forgetting that he could take this team to the Western Conference playoffs.
They're selective buyers. I mean, they're not going to buy an old 1948 Ford, but they may buy a 2015 Mercedes-Benz. They got a few miles on it, you know. I just think, depending on who it is, I just think they're very selective buyers. I just think that if they look at a guy and say, this guy can fit our team for the next 2 or 3 years, 4 years, yeah, we'll do it. But I don't think they're going to make a trade for a guy to say, okay, this is a one and done year. I think they'd probably wait. But hey, look, I've said this at the start of the year. LeBron, if he's healthy, This team will finish in the playoff. They'll be in the playoffs. So it's just a matter of do they have home court or not. He's such a dominant personality, and the way he plays just affects everybody on the floor in such a positive way. You know, he can do so many things. His ability to pass and run, and it's fun for me to watch him. But I just also think that in the back of Magic's mind, he's thinking, okay, we're going to really, you know, if something comes along now, but boy, this next summer, we have opportunity to sign some free agents, and who can we get? And I think they have a big grand plan there. But if a good player came along, hey, look, let's face it, if Anthony Davis becomes available and you can get him, you do that in a heartbeat.
Like, you don't mean a good player like somebody that may have gone to school on the West Coast, somebody who may have been an all-star that can rebound and can shoot threes and may feel very familiar to LeBron James.
That has
Nothing.
similar initials
Nobody like
to
that.
mine, KL, perhaps.
I just throwing it out there.
I hear you. You never
Something
know.
to think
Could
about.
be.
It's something to think about. All right, we're
Brings a
gonna
little
be
Beach Boys music with him.
back. Yeah, right.
Want to bring that up? I didn't want to say that.
Donovan Mitchell, Giannis Antetokounmpo, a couple of young stars going head-to-head Jazz Bucks. It's 1 of 8 on a Monday night. The Cleveland Cavaliers released wing Patrick McCaw on Monday ahead of the 5 p.m. deadline to guarantee his contract for this season. McCaw, who agreed to a free agent deal with the team last week, played only 3 games for the Cavs, scoring a total of 5 points. He joined the Cavaliers on a $6 million non-guaranteed contract offer, which the Warriors refused to match. I want to ask you where he could end up as a free agent, where he could potentially fit well, but also want to ask about the situation at hand. Is it something that the league should be looking into? Is there a rule here that you think perhaps should be changed because of the loophole that's been found?
Go ahead, Mike. You had an interesting take on this today when we talked.
Just hearsay. But remember, if he did not sign with someone, he was still Golden State's property.
Right.
So he had to sign with another team. There weren't a lot of takers out there offering him money. So Cleveland, who could have been doing his agent a favor, signs him to a 2-year non-guaranteed contract. Now, the day before, legally they can do this, they waive him. Well, guess what? He's now a free agent. So now he can go to a team that perhaps his agent has already talked to, negotiate a deal worth more than what he was getting from the Cavaliers, and he winds up in a place that he's happy with and really wants him and can use him. And Cleveland has done a very nice favor for an agent who may happen to have a great player down the road some year. We don't know that.
But he couldn't go back to Golden State, and he could sign with the Cavs for significantly less.
Yeah, I don't see him doing either, though. He's not going back to Golden State. I think they made that perfectly clear, and they didn't want to match him.
And the Cavs don't need him, to be honest with
yeah.
you. They've got a number of players that are the same size, do the same things that he does.
Agreed. I think he's one of those guys that fits on a good team. I don't think he fits on a bad team. I don't think you can give him the ball and say, go create for others and stuff. You know, he got a lot of open shots, but I tell you what, everybody gets open shots if you play with KD, Steph, and Clay. You know, they're gonna be off you.
Yeah.
I could see him going. You know, Chris Paul has had problems. I could see Houston being a buyer maybe in this market where McCaw could make some shots for them, you know, defend well enough at that point guard, do just enough off the dribble and be clever enough with the ball that you give James a little bit of a rest, harden off the ball a little bit. I could see him going to a good team. He's one of those guys, I don't like him on a bad team because he's not that player. He's a nice piece that, you know, that could fit, and he fit well with Golden State, and it just didn't work out there. But Mike, I agree with you. I said there's like some loopholes. There's some areas that if players kind of do what he did, he becomes now an unrestricted free agent using the rules.
Right.
But you know, it all seemed like when I read the whole thing, I was like, huh.
Yeah.
It sounded a little bit
Could be
suspicious.
worth revisiting.